Welcome to our first Centre Court Festival that is dedicated to pre-experience and specialised masters. For the past 4 years with John Byrne and the team at Poets and Quants, we've organised many Centre Court festivals focused on the MBA. And while applications to the world's top business schools for MBA are climbing, it is the pre-experience and specialised masters that are seeing explosive growth in recent years. To capture that incredible range of options, over the next 2 days, we're welcoming many of the world's best schools to talk about the Masters in Management, to talk about the Masters in Finance, Masters in Business Analytics and beyond. We've got supply chain, digital marketing, you name it, tech, a school has it. So we really hope that you will enjoy all of the conversations. We have panels with admissions directors and also with career services managers. Some of the schools said to me, you know, we have more questions about career opportunities after the Masters in Management than any other in the FAQ section. So hopefully we can answer some of those. And also don't miss the fireside chats that we have with deans and interviews with really a quite extraordinary group of very talented, very motivated, incredibly energetic and positive students and alumni that I've had the chance to sit down with as we've prepared the festival. Now, to get us started, we're focusing in this first panel on the Masters in Management, which, as I mentioned, has seen incredible growth. It's not even a best kept secret at the business schools anymore. I mean, this is a global phenomenon. With an audience and applicants coming from all around the world. And I'm very fortunate because I bring together three wonderful individuals that represent three of the very best business schools. I'm joined by Stephanie Thrain, who is the Admissions Director of Early Career Programs at the London Business School. Stephanie, it's great to have you with us coming in from the UK.
Thanks, Matt.
Virginie Fougia, the Global Director of Admissions. And of course, Virginie, you've met at Centre Court wearing her hat for MBA. So I don't think I'll have to remind her that this is all about the MIM today. And also welcoming Sophie Dimish-Louvet, who is the Director of Student Recruitment at HEC Paris. So the three of you, thanks very much for being with us for this first festival. And I guess a lot to cover, perhaps even just as we look at where the Masters in Management fits. We describe it typically as pre-experience. Sophie, perhaps you could just briefly describe the HEC Paris program and the wonderful sort of diversity that it attracts.
Yeah, so the Master in Management at HEC was created in 1881 and was open to international admissions in the 1990s. It's a 2-year program with 20 specializations or 20 international double degrees to choose from. You can tailor it to suit your needs and benefit from a perfect balance between practice and theory, with courses taught by HEC faculty or professionals from top companies. This Master in Management program is most attractive to pre-experienced students from all over the world with an international mindset looking to launch their careers and eventually become leaders of industry.
Right. Whether or not you still have anyone in the admissions office for the past 139 years, there's a lot of experience on this panel. But now, Stephanie, you entered the Masters in Management market, I guess, just over a decade ago, and you quickly have been at the top of rankings. Tell me a little bit about the program and also how it compares to the full-time MBA at a slightly later stage of someone's development.
Yeah, well, I think what Sophie said was actually, really accurate in terms of, it's about kickstarting your career. And I think that's what the Masters in Management is for, propelling and kickstarting. So yeah, you're right. We've just celebrated our 10th anniversary for the Masters in Management, where our Global Masters in Management is also part of that suite. That's only 5 years old. And it's a general management degree, a lot of focus, like Sophie also said, on the experiential learning, practical experience, coupled with the theory, especially on the strategic level. So it's really for students who want to enter, general business management. The majority of our students go into consulting. So it gives you that very wide perspective of how businesses operate in a global setting.
Right. It's not often, Virginie, that INSEAD is the newcomer. You've been around for over 60 years as a school, but it must have taken a lot of discussion and a big step to launch the Masters in Management this year. You've just welcomed the first class. A fun step and some wonderful energy, lots of 22, 23-year-olds running around on the campus.
Yeah, exciting. That was really exciting. And humbling as well, because you don't know what to expect. And so we were very, very pleased to see 95 pioneers making it to the Fontainebleau campus despite the COVID. And as you say, being last in this, last or being later than the other schools in Europe to make it to the MIM. But I think the idea was to really create something new that would clearly be differentiated from the MBA and the EMBA that we already offer, or the Master in Finance. So that was really created to provide some foundation to successfully launch a career. So we like to see it as a launch pad, where we teach the business fundamentals, obviously, but we also have alongside the core courses, we also have the action learning. So really the blocks where we teach students how to apply what they have, the concepts they have learned in the classroom. And also the idea to teach additional skills required by employers, like programming, structured problem solving, analytics. So that was the concept, that was the idea.
Right, now 3 incredibly international schools. I mean, the US schools don't even come close. And you all have, additional campuses beyond the origins. Sophie, you talked about, opening up to international applicants in the last 25, 30 years. Tell me a little bit about that international makeup, because, you're attracting individuals not just from Europe, where the Masters in Management really sort of found its early beginnings, but now from North Latin America, all over Asia. It's a very international mix.
Yeah, it's a very international mix, exactly as you said, Matt. It's wonderful because even though they come from all different academic backgrounds, so our Master in Management is open to all academic backgrounds, all professional experiences. The one thing they have in common is this desire to join a like-minded community that's really open. Many of our students do like to stay in Europe and work here in Europe after the program. So that's a way for them to remain close even after they graduate, and there are a lot of opportunities here for their initial career path. So they're really hoping to join a community that's very close, like-minded in its diversity, and they can all contribute something from their own background to really enrich the HEC community. So that's what's wonderful about the Master in Management. It's also a 2-year program, so it gives them enough time to really get quite close throughout the program.
Right. We'll be talking perhaps more about that sort of global mindset and how you assess that during the admissions process. But I mean, Stephanie, not only are they joining an incredible international community, as Sophie described it, but also, you all have a full-time MBA, you have executive MBA. So you have this range of students at different stages in their career. Does that create a good mix between the MIM students and your Sloan Fellows, or even the exec MBA students on campus?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why, our MIM program and our early career programs are so popular at London Business School, is because it is a very close-knit, a very collaborative community where, as a MIM student, you're taking electives with Sloan students that have 20 years of experience, or executive MBA students with 15 years of experience. And you are collaborating on case studies and real life issues, but with very different mindsets. And I definitely think that the opportunity to learn from, be mentored by these very senior executives is one of the benefits, but equally reverse as well. I think the more experienced students gain a lot of different perspectives from our early career students. And it's not just in the academics, all club activities are shared amongst all of our degree programs. So it's a real mix of experience and learning. And I see that as one of the key benefits of going to business school.
Right, and I guess a network that may then open up other career opportunities, meeting individuals from so many different companies and institutions. Virginie, for the program that you've just launched, you split the program across the Fontainebleau campus, but they'll also spend, the last 4 months of the program in Singapore? So you're really trying to embed that international experience in there.
Yes, this is the plan. And why not China? But the COVID is kind of challenging the plans. So we'll see where we can take students, where it makes sense in terms of learnings, in terms of program structure. But the idea is to take them to Singapore, indeed.
Right, and language requirement that goes with that. You expect 3 languages by the time you finish the MBA. Is it similar in the mind for the NIM?
It's the same type of requirement. At some points, they will need to provide us with their language certification, because this is a way to demonstrate your international mindset more than your ability to speak a language. It's also how can you adapt to different environments and where people can speak other languages. So that's the idea behind the language policy.
Right, I was mentioning the alumni interviews I've been able to do with ambassadors for all of your schools, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, I speak 4 or 5 languages, as this is the most natural thing in the world. It's so so refreshing. Does that then mean, Sophie, you know, in terms of early stage, it's still a general management program? So you will be looking later on today at some of the specialized masters, but it really is looking to provide all of those core skill sets for that early stage of your career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. A lot of students, when applying to their master's programs, they're torn between a generalist program and a more specialized program. I think what's wonderful about master's in management programs, and the one we have at HEC, is that it allows you to do both. So you have a first year generalist phase with an optional gap year. And I mentioned at the beginning the 50-50 theory practice balance. So you do have a lot of networking and exposure to companies in that generalist phase, which allows you, I'd say over 90% of our students choose to do the optional gap year. So they'll do 2 6-month internships, for example, 1 in consulting, 1 in finance. And that is really the period that helps them define what they want to do in the specialization phase. So the second year of the program. Certain students have, already accumulated professional experience or internships, and so they skip this optional gap year because they already know what they want to do in their second year. And then, like I said, we have over 20 specializations to choose from in the Master in Management, and over 20 international double degrees to choose from as well.
And on that path of self-discovery, I mean, you have fun with it too. I can remember Eloise describing, that you visit a circus or take everyone to a Benedictine monastery to sort of reflect. I mean, it really is a wonderful stage of development.
Yeah, in this first year, to really take you out of the context of the classroom. So we try to put you in real life situations. If you do, let's say, the Air France Academy in January, you go to the Air France offices. I think now's a really interesting time to be doing that, to see what kind of projects they're working on. You can do, my favorite, I think, is the crisis management. So you're in a classroom with other students. You have a few minutes to learn about your company, and then you get a phone call with a crisis. So we've just found out that they sell horse meat in your lasagna. How are you going to deal with this crisis internally? How are you going to communicate with the press? And what company doesn't go through a crisis at one point or another? So it's a fantastic way of taking you outside the context of the classroom and really giving you more of a practical focus.
Probably one group of individuals that can walk into an airline office at the moment and say, hey, we can save things, we can turn this around. Stephanie, given that this is typically graduating out of university, out of college, or in the first year or 2 years, you're accepting applications up to 2 years out of university. So it is very much early career. How do you then help them to explore, the many different options and interests that they have?
Yeah, I mean, as part of our admissions process, we of course ask people or applicants what it is that they are trying to gain from their Masters in Management. And I think it is really important to think about what it is that you are trying to achieve, but not lock yourself in completely. But as we're only a 12 to 16-month program, there's so much stuff to, cram in. And we all know recruitment for some industries start, a week into the program. So I think it is really important that you spend some of the research phase thinking about your short-term goals. Having said that, though, there's no contract between admissions and the school and the students in terms of what it is they want to do. And we know once our students join us, they are just bombarded with so many opportunities from the Career Center, from their networks. And often, they have to spend a couple of months figuring out or reevaluating, I guess, their journey. And we have a brilliant Career Center team there to support our students, both from like industry professionals, but also, they have assigned career coaches that can help them rediscover new ideas or get them sort of back on track. So I would say, that they're spoiled for choice, really. And most of them do really, really well. But I think most of them will also say there's a time for exploration, but then you also kind of have to somewhat, maybe in this first term of the program, kind of narrow your search a little bit.
And reassure me, this is the dialogue that you have with your students. There's no mom and dad. They might be helping perhaps to finance the program, but this is their exploration, and you're supporting very much their personal journey.
Yeah, I don't think mom and dad are part of any career coaching sessions, as far as I'm aware.
They get to discuss that during the holidays. So what do you think about doing now? Virginie, talking to Ilian, of course, this strikes me as a generation with a real sense of purpose, and as a school, with the center that you have, as business as a force for good. Is that something that you think resonates with this group? They're not just thinking about those career options, but the sort of positive impact that they also then want to have in their careers.
So Ilian is our dean for the audience who might not be aware of. Actually, I think it's even probably more aligned with the MIM than any other population, or it's something that they really expect from a school or a company, to have this notion of giving back and beyond themselves. The sense of purpose for this generation is probably even more vivid than what I remember from past conversations with MBA a few years ago. It's changing as well, but I think it's really, really important to them, this notion of the sense of purpose. What do I bring to my community? What do I bring back to my company? As a MIM student is very important, I think.
Yeah. So as we look at these wonderful profiles and applications that you're receiving from all around the world, I mean, Sophie, this is not the 28, 29-year-old who's been working in banking, consulting, software engineering for the last 4 or 5 years. So perhaps you can just talk us through what you're looking for. Maybe let's start with sort of academics and GMAT or GRE scores. Are those data points that much more important because they're at this early stage of their career?
We have a holistic approach in evaluating applications. So really no one element is more important than the other. We look at academic excellence, of course, but when I say academic excellence, I don't just mean GPA. I mean what sort of classes you took, how much did you challenge yourself in the classroom. We look at extracurricular experiences and professional experiences. So if you feel a little worried about how many internships you've done, but you've been super involved in your university, been president of I don't know, the Francophone Society or something like that, because you have a genuine interest that you're trying to develop, then that's wonderful. We are looking at competitive scores in terms of GMAT, GRE, or TAJMAJ. Those are the 3 tests that we require, but we don't have any minimum score requirements because of this holistic approach of evaluating applications. So the one thing I will say is if you have any doubts on your GPA, on your management test, you're more than welcome to contact our team. We're really here to help you apply with the best application process possible, because we know the application process is quite challenging, and it's hard to see where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. But we really do have a whole team in place to help you with this whole process, to help you apply with the best application possible.
Got it. Now, an LBS Masters in Management graduate, Stephanie, is as likely to pursue entrepreneurship or a position in the creative industries as they are in finance or consulting. So, back to both sort of academic vitality, the role of the GMAT and GRE, similar approach. It's part of a holistic process, but those data points do matter to you for
Yeah.
some of the skills you're looking for.
Yeah, very similar to what Sophie was saying. We also take a very holistic view. We do provide some guidelines on sort of minimum scores, but they're not hard as such. They're more guidelines. And I would say in our application, we also make room for candidates to let us know if there was anything that was hindering them from achieving the score that they thought they were going to achieve, more like both academically but also on the GMAT test. So there's room to tell us what's happening in their life. Was there something? And we hear that a lot. Obviously everyone's just people, and things happen to us, and that can affect how we perform academically, and we of course take that into consideration as well.
Right. So Sophie talked about a global mindset, Virginie, which is very much on your mind for a school like INSEAD. I'm 22, 23. I haven't worked in Zurich for the last 3 years. Or how might you be looking to identify that sort of international spark in a profile?
Well, first of all, you would be impressed by what a 20-year-old can demonstrate in terms of international mindset and exposure, and it makes me feel where was I when I was 20? Or maybe in the middle of the wood here in Fontainebleau, but no, so because we one differentiator between these schools is that we decided to create the MIM program exactly in the same type of DNA with the mastering intensity. So it's a 1-year program again, excluding the internship or full-time experience after, but it's a little bit shorter. So for that reason, we want to understand through the application form what people have done in their life so far in terms of life experiences. So it can be abroad, but it can be why undertaking a global mastering management is important for their future career, and what it brings to them to be in a classroom with. So for this new class is 32, 35 different nationalities represented in this class. So it's why is that important for you? So we're looking again for individuals who are mastering intensity, showing some sort of maturity despite the young age, and that comes naturally through life experiences, and people who are basically undertaking initiatives or ready to take initiatives. So I think this is the individuals we are looking for.
And that sense of maturity, Stephanie, you were saying, a self-awareness already at this stage. How does that come across? Sophie was giving examples perhaps of a leadership role that you've played at university and college, community engagement. I mean, many ways perhaps to then be able to demonstrate to you some of the softer skills outside a classroom of engagement and leadership.
Yeah, I mean, we ask specifically for hobbies or interest. We want to know what people do outside of their professional and their studies. I think we're all looking for, well-rounded people, just like employers are going to be looking for the same attributes and the characteristics. So we want to make sure that people have interests outside of studies and work, but often interest can also display, like you said, leadership and teamwork, and that's what we often see in our students, whether that's through extracurricular activities, where they've been president or treasurer of a club, or student organizations like ISEC and other stuff, or volunteer opportunities in their communities. I think all those experiences makes an individual more of an all-rounder and a well-rounded future leader. So those are I would say very important to us, just like the academics and the professional experiences.
Right. So, Sophie, will part of our audience maybe just starting their senior year in college, others just graduated and admittedly to a very challenging job market as they come out of school. Talk us through perhaps someone applying immediately as they graduate, and the idea of starting the Masters in Management just a few months after that graduation. versus someone that perhaps has taken a year between the two, that would then be able to demonstrate to you an experience that, whether for a non-profit, whether for a foundation, whether for a Fortune 500 company. Are there natural advantages to taking that additional year before applying?
It really depends on the person. So the good news is all profiles are eligible. There are students who have just in a 2-month internship learned so much and could share with the person that's interviewing them how impactful that experience was for them. So if that's sufficient for you and you really want to have a fluid transition between when you finish your bachelor's and when you start to integrate the professional world, then I'd say a Master in Management program like the one we offer is a really good fit. If you have worked for a year, I know that there are many students who, for example, have done studies in engineering, did a 1-year full-time experience, and then felt a gap in their knowledge in terms of more management and finance focused topics. So they look to a Master in Management to give them in that first year generalist phase the foundation that they might not have before specializing in something that they're interested in, so consulting or finance or even strategic management. So there are a lot of options through the Master in Management programs, but that's what I like so much about the Master in Management is not only does it offer this fluid transition from bachelor's or pre-experience to the professional world, but it also allows students to explore topics that they might not already have a foundation in. And if they already do, then they can tailor even the first year to fit their needs.
Right. And as someone says, thrive in an intense environment, love the international dimension. Your programs really work for me, but I'm now 2.5 years out of school. I've looked at your MBA program, but on average they have 6 years of experience. Virginie, is there any sort of leeway for someone that's 2.5 years out of school that really feels the Masters in Management is best suited to them rather than the MBA, or is it a firm 2-year cutoff?
So the good news is that it's the same admissions team. So there could be transfer over. So we could potentially see that the potential is there for MBA and recommend the MBA even if the person has filled in a Master in Management application, because we feel that the way we have designed the program would probably best fit this person. So we don't have a rigid, clear cutoff. That would you cannot apply a standard rule for everyone. It doesn't work this way. We are all different. We like diversity. So if we were to apply exactly the same cutoff, that wouldn't work. But we need to be mindful. Prospective applicants need to be mindful of what we are trying to achieve and what we have to offer in terms of relationship with the companies recruiting after the Master in Management rather than the MBA, and the way we market future students and future graduates is a little bit different to a company that will recruit at a junior level or an MBA level. So this is something that prospective applicants need to look into. And I think you have organized panels with career directors after, so from these schools. So I think it's a good way to also understand the difference between Master in Management and MBA, at least the way we position it as well. Then people can see what fit best their goals.
Right, Stephanie, would you add anything to that? Because again, with David Simpson and your MBA team, a very close working relationship, same sort of fluid. There are always exceptions.
I would say we have a pretty hard and fast rule on the 2-year experience, but obviously we will transfer between each other. So if I'm reading someone and they have 2.5 or maybe 3, I will probably just run them by David and the team and say, would this be someone you're interested in? Because the MBA has a minimum of 2 years and we have a maximum of 2. So I hope we can find something for everyone.
Right, so it picks up where the other left off. With this focus on business, certainly in the US, there are many, many more graduates from BBA programs, that have studied business at undergrad. You're attracting a group. You could have studied art history. You could have studied a STEM subject. I mean, Stephanie, do you think there are certain academic backgrounds that then lend themselves particularly well to now gain this master's focused on management?
I think it's clear that someone who's done the BBA or just a business administration degree will probably have some, good understanding of some of the core courses that are taught, but it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily be a better fit for the MIM program, or that they'll have better career prospects or anything like that. I think employers are looking for diversity in their hires. And our pipeline is their pipeline. So we really want, people from all kinds of different backgrounds. I think we are all accepting students from not just business backgrounds. We love different disciplines because they give that different perspective. For us at LBS, it's important that if, let's say, you have a history bachelor's or sociology or something like that, that you then have some kind of practical experience that you can showcase so that you do understand businesses. So that's why we'll then look at your internship experience and sort of assess your CV with some of the practical professional experiences that you can then bring to the classroom as well. But I see some advantages in sort of just like getting up to speed quickly with the core curriculum. But other than that, we do welcome people from all kinds of backgrounds and value them.
Right, and with that diversity, Sophie, in the IITs, I think, have a grading system out of 10. Australia, it's what, ABC. In Italy, it's out of 110. Are you then able to work with transcripts and grades that are specific to each market, or do you want them to try to adapt that to a GPA equivalent scale?
We get that question a lot. It's a very good question. Actually, in your application, you can input your GPA as it appears on your transcript and then select the scale. So we know that all countries have different systems, and we want to be able to make it as easy for you as possible to apply. So you, just as I said, you input your GPA as it appears on your transcript, select the scale, and if you have any doubts on your GPA, you can of course communicate to us, and as it appears on your transcript as well, we're very familiar with all the different types of grading systems. If you want to know as of right now kind of where you stand in terms of GPA, one great way to see is just to compare yourself to your own class average and just see, are you at the average? Are you slightly above, below? If you're below, then what else in your application can you really focus on to try to balance everything out?
Right. I'd like to just speak with each of you of the theme of diversity and inclusion, because we've seen the challenge at the MBA level. You've all made tremendous efforts to achieve a stronger level of gender balance in the full-time MBA program. The Masters in Management seems to have achieved that much more easily. But as you think both in terms of young women that say, maybe this makes sense. I hadn't thought about business. I went and studied something completely different. Or just even more broadly than that, and any group that might not typically have had business school on their radar screen. Virginie, perhaps start with you in terms of, are you seeing a stronger gender balance at the Masters in Management level, and why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I wish I already have the answer. I need probably a little bit more study here to analyze the data, but we reached 39% in this first MIM class, which is higher than the MBA indeed, at least for INSEAD. I think we will always have some sort of challenge at INSEAD because of the fact that we recruit in so many different countries where women do not access a higher education. I think if we were based in the US where women and men access higher education exactly the same way, with similar equal chances, we would probably be closer to a 50% or recruiting from Europe primarily. But we have to be mindful of the fact that we recruit globally in countries, again, where it's not so easy to have this parity. I think the gender split is interesting because of the interesting discussions and insightful discussions it brings in the classroom. for this reason, I hope we can probably be higher in the near future, but we will not twist anything to be higher. I think, again, what is important is more the value and what the discussions, the interest in the discussions, and what the topic we are able to address in the classroom, more than just having one additional female or two. It's more, what do you bring to the discussion that is really, really important.
Right, and it must be one of the most rewarding parts of your job, sort of crafting that diversity. Stephanie, you're a springboard for future business leaders, gender balance in the C-suite, at later stages in their career. What are you seeing at LBS in terms of how the Masters in Management really makes sense and resonates, with young women that see business as their future career?
Yeah, I mean, we like Virginie was saying, we also do better, I would say, on our early career programs, and in terms of women, we attract more women than in the more experienced programs. I hope that by doing that, we can help feed some of the pipeline for our more experienced programs in the future, but more importantly, like you said, just the C-suite. And I think that is the issue, other than the complexity obviously of recruiting internationally. Like Virginie was saying, there are some countries where there just aren't as many women that are interested in business or in higher education in general. I think another complexity when you reach women at a more experienced level is also that there just are less women in some of the more senior positions in companies, and perhaps also there are less women that are sponsored or approach to do, let's say, MBA or Masters in Finance or Executive MBA programs. I think in order to change that, I think it's really beneficial to have these early career Masters in Management or pre-experience programs in general, because that will feed the pipeline, not just for other programs, but just in C-suite in general, because obviously our goal is that these women, these students, will go on and take leadership positions in big companies that can then affect this change.
Right, and in a broader sense of diversity, Sophie, HEC is one of the illustrious European grandes écoles, and feeds, I don't know, what is it, a quarter of the CEOs of the CAC 40. But with wider society that has said, oh, at these grandes écoles, that's not my route. What are you doing with minority groups? Is the Masters in Management, even in terms of scholarships and opportunities, how do you look to connect with them and say, hey, this could be a great opportunity for you?
Yeah, you said it exactly right, Matt. One of the ways that we show different students, so not only based on their gender, financial needs, etc., that they're more than welcome to apply, they're more than welcome in this program, is through scholarship opportunities. So for example, if we look at encouraging women to apply to this program, we have the Women's High Potential Scholarship, which is between 8,000 and 15,000 euros. And then the Volkswagen Women in Leadership Scholarship, which not only offers them a 15,000 euro scholarship for their studies, it also gives them potential internship opportunities at Volkswagen, which is an industry that needs more women as well. And I think something that's very important to us is not only attracting for the more need-based students. We have a strong partnership with Campus France for the Eiffel Scholarship, so that application deadline is coming right up, but that's a really important scholarship for students who are very interested in pursuing a Master's in Management with us, but need financial support. But another thing that's very important to us, and I think contributes to the balance that we have in our program, is that we don't just try to attract them, we try to support them once they're here. So we have the Women in Business Student Association, we have the International Student Association, and even to bridge the gap between the prépa students that come to our school and the international students, we have the Student Ambassador Program, which allows them to collaborate on our open day, on certain events that are really for all prospective students. So it's, of course, telling them that it's possible to apply to the Master in Management, but also giving them the support that they need once they're in the program to feel comfortable, to feel like they can succeed.
So if you were a fly on the wall, Virginie, as someone sort of sitting down and thinking about the drafts of the applications they're going to submit to INSEAD, but they have that moment of a sense of imposter syndrome. You know, they've looked at the caliber of individuals that your three schools attract: talented, ambitious, open-minded, you know, all of the rest, smart, and they say, you know, is there a place for me in a class this talented? How would you reassure them, or just speak to them and, you know, encourage them to share their story?
I think there are two things here. I feel the imposter syndrome. I understand this for sure, but I'm also convinced that it's not one size fits all. It's we all have unique features, and as a school, and it's the same with applicants. Prospective applicants are all different, and even if you think, oh, I'm coming from this nationality and I'm sure INSEAD is receiving thousands of applications from this country, well, maybe not. Maybe it's not the case, and if it is the case, maybe you are different and we want you. So it's coming back to your imposter syndrome. Is you probably you have an understanding of why you would like to undertake these studies. You have an understanding of how you want to contribute to the global challenges that are ahead of us, and I am convinced that it's even now more than ever time to invest in higher education, and to invest in yourself and doing a master. There will be challenges. Companies will have to adapt a lot more quickly than they have had for the past 10 years, probably. So they need leaders who are currently being trained in school like ours, and who will then be in the job market when this situation kind of solve or is slightly on the brighter side. So I really think is by looking at what do we have in terms of values and what do they bring to us that people can understand and shine in an application process, and contribute to those global challenges that are aware of ahead of us.
Right, and sometimes, Stephanie, it can be a conversation of a current student or an alum that is, you know, inspiring, also very reassuring in terms of that experience. What are the opportunities for, you know, any of our viewers that are saying, you know, I'd love to connect with recent LBS students from the Masters in Management program? How can you facilitate that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, we've just recruited 46 new student ambassadors. I think they'll be on our website soon. We're just combining profiles at the moment. But yeah, we have basically volunteer students who have signed up to speak to prospective students and to speak to applicants about their experience. So I think that's a great way to get to know the school more, to get to know the culture, and find out if we're a right fit for each other. Is basically just to reach out to them. They're there. They're happy to share their experiences. But Matt, if I just may, I just want to go back to Virginie's point about the imposter syndrome, because I think it's really important for everyone that faces that. And like Virginie was saying, I'm sure we've all been in that situation, but I think a master's program, and especially a master's in management, can really give you that confidence so that you do not feel an imposter syndrome anymore. So even if you feel like that, you know, take the risk, because then in the future, you know, you will have the confidence in yourself that you have the skills to contribute in your workplace, and in your networks. Whereas I think if you have imposter syndrome, maybe you're afraid of taking those risks, and that will kind of follow you throughout life. But this will give you the confidence. If you speak to any of these student ambassadors that I spoke about before, I'm sure they will say to you that doing this program has given them so much confidence in their skills as leaders, but also in their technical skills.
Yeah, no, thank you for emphasizing that. And I think, you know, the reminder to our audience, you know, these are three wonderful very experienced admissions gatekeepers, if their schools have offered you to interview or certainly offered a place in the program, they have seen the qualities, characteristics, to believe that you will thrive. So no, it's a point very well made. I'd love to spend time on a beautiful campus just on the outskirts of Paris, Sophie. That's not so much an option at the moment, even within the country. Connecting with the school, campus visits, not yet, but how can I find out more, and info sessions and initiatives that you've taken to be able to share more of the experience at HEC?
Yeah, we actually we're being very cautious. We met with campus security and they cleared campus visits, so we do them individually. You can request one on our website. You can also request a personalized consultation with someone from our team, either just ask a question or upload your CV and set up a call with us. That's no problem, but you are more than welcome to come visit the campus. Our students are on campus in taking their classes in a hybrid format, but we're here to meet with you, welcome you. Of course, we're taking every precaution possible, so definitely bring your mask, and we have plenty of hand sanitizer here. So that is a possibility for you. We're talking about our open day, which will take place in March. And I think we'll be doing an online format for that, but we're trying to make it as dynamic as possible. And we can do that thanks to we also have a student ambassador program with about 170 student ambassadors that range across all our programs. And we have many, many from the Master in Management. You can filter by nationality, you can filter by school of previous degree. They're really fantastic. They do mock interviews, so they can really help you prepare for your interview so that you feel comfortable, and then they'll help us with admitted student events. So they're a wonderful resource, as Stephanie said, for you if you have any questions or if you feel like an imposter, you can definitely contact them, and they're very, very helpful. Yeah.
Right. We talked about recruiters that are looking for individuals in this current market that are adaptable, they're resilient. And I have to take my hats off to all of you, because with your admissions and teams and colleagues, it strikes me that in the last 6-7 months, in such unprecedented circumstances, you've come up with so many options, whether it's coffee chats, whether it's a more personalized campus visit. Who would have thought the silver lining is that you get a one-on-one visit of the school campus, but you've all taken so many efforts. And I also get the sense, and welcome any of you to speak to this, how your alumni that are identified so strongly with your programs are part of that process. Stefan, I mean, you talked about the ambassadors. They love that role, don't they? They'd love to share their own stories and experience. It's something that they proactively do, perhaps, rather than you having to go and ask them.
Yeah. Who doesn't like speaking about themselves, or who doesn't like to share their knowledge? Who doesn't like to be asked about how you feel about things? I think they do that, but I also think they do that because they really care about their community. At the end of the day, they're all going to be part of the same alumni network, and they kind of want a feel for who is considering London Business School, and they want to, if they can, kind of influence that. If they meet someone they think would be great, they want to try and convince them to join London Business School. So I think they have a lot of different motivations, but yeah, obviously they love their experience, otherwise they probably wouldn't sign up for the role.
So perhaps some words of advice for the year ahead. It is challenging economically, the job market that we spoke about, and you're seeing a huge demand in numbers. Now, some people could be put off by that and say, oh, as you said earlier, Virginie, maybe you're thinking there are lots of people from my part of the world that are all applying to the school. How do I stand out? How do you sort of place that in context? Yes, you have 3 extraordinarily selective programs, but Sophie, that shouldn't prevent an individual from applying and sharing their story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never too early to begin the application process. In terms of career placement, I think that's why, despite this challenging time, we've seen an increase in international student applications. I think that our strong career placement at HEC has made them feel like this is a very solid investment for them. They can, contact us if they have any they want more information about career placement, if they want more information about the structure of the program, we really have a whole team in place to assist you in this application process. And my advice would be, as I said before, it's never too early to start thinking about the application process, even if it's just refining what your interests are so that you can better determine what master's program is a right fit for you. If it ends up being the Master in Management and you do apply to HEC, that'll really help your interest team genuine, and it will help us determine whether we're a good fit for each other.
Right. As we look at the academic calendar, and you're working again with admissions deadlines, Virginie, to fill next summer's incoming class. Round one might be passed, but that doesn't mean that all of the places are spoken for. Still plenty of more opportunities in round two and beyond.
Yeah, there will be places until the very end, because as we said earlier, as long as the person brings the unique perspective we are looking for, I'm sure we can find a sit. We can always discuss a start next intake. In case it is full, we have the possibility to adjust slightly the class target. So for this class, we were targeting 80 and we are at 95. So we have this flexibility up or down. So this is I realize this is very, very comfortable in a way, being the admissions director in this position, but it's also for the prospective applicants reassuring, because even if it's late, we had one applicant who reached out to us round 5 for the intake that just started, and she was coming back from a tour in New Zealand. And during this tour, she made this introspection and she felt, oh, I cannot stop now working and I need another degree. And she reached out to our recruitment team and said, hey, is it too late? And can I still apply? And she's in, and she wrote a very nice blog. So it's the type of experiences that can happen even in round 5.
That New Zealand landscape will do it for you, to go and reflect on where you're headed next. Stephanie, David Simpson, your colleague from MBA admissions last week, he sort of said round 1, they've even had to push back by a week or so. Interview invites, it's been hectic. I'm sure you're seeing a very strong demand, but again, lots of places, and it isn't other people's applications that should deter you from putting together your own.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like David's and the MBA team, we've also seen an increase in applications on all of our early career programs, actually from round 1, but I don't want to, I can't predict the rest of the year. We don't know if that's going to continue. I don't think any of us know. I suspect it will, but because we don't know, we're not going to sort of over offer on round 1, and I think despite last year being extremely challenging and a volatile environment, or whatever you want to call it, I think there are still some historical trends that sort of carried on. So there are some nationality group that we know will apply later in the year. So we do, like Virginie, we do have room much later in the year and throughout the year, especially as we build these very diverse classes, because like I said, we do know that there are some groups that tend to apply in different times of the year, and of course we have to wait for those.
Why is that, Stephanie? David was saying that the Brits, he's pulling his hair out, they never apply until the final round. Why do some parts of the world, have it all together, they're applying in the early rounds, and others not? Is it cultural?
Yeah, maybe they all go traveling in New Zealand, like Virginie was saying, and they come to this realization they have to do something. No, what we tend to see is sort of a lot of students, I guess, sort of from Asia, applying very early on. I think that's just the landscape of higher education in some parts of the world, and then it's sort of followed by, I guess, sort of Europeans in the middle of the year. Yeah, the Brits are last. Yeah, I don't actually know why. I didn't.
If I may add, it's also a question of visa, because you have to know that you're admitted earlier on if you have to move to Europe.
Yeah, Brits can just pull out their Oyster card and get off at Baker Street, can't they? So yeah, no, that's
True.
that's going to make it. So perhaps to close, and you know, thank you all three of you for so many insights. If we're sort of thinking about is the Masters in Management, you know, the right program for me and the right time for me? Perhaps starting with Sophie, but just for each of you, if you were to ask any of your students or recent graduates, you know, what's the thing that they remember most? It's probably, I hope it's not a discounted cash flow course. You know, it might be that moment of personal development and learning. So, Sophie, what strikes you? What might they answer?
If I may, I think it's threefold. The first, because all international students are allowed to live on campus and encouraged to do so, I'd say the first point is definitely the diverse community, because you're living on campus with all of the other students, and you're sharing a dorm building with people from all over the world. And so you know, they cook dinners together. So I definitely think the first point would be the diverse community that's very tight knit. The second, I think that's quite unique to our program, is the practical approach. So just the constant exposure to different top tier companies and all the networking events that are available to them. And then the final point, because I think a lot of our alumni will attest to this, is the solid career placement that they can find after the program.
Right. Well, they say good things come in threes, which is obviously true of the panel that I get to host. Stephanie, again, whether you hear it in the corridors on the campus, or, you know, 3 years later, 10 years later, when they come back and say, you know, this was just a really special moment for me. What sort of feedback do you get?
Yeah, I could echo some of the things that Sophie was saying, but what I will say is I think sometimes people think that if you go to business school, it's sort of a very ruthless, competitive environment. And what I always hear from the alumni I speak to is that it can be quite a humbling experience going to business school, maybe because you are surrounded by people who are, you know, really, really good like yourself. But it's more sort of this notion of constant collaboration and really community spirit. I think any student that comes into LBS will be able to reach out to any alumni, whether they're the managing director at Goldman Sachs or, you know, product development at Google. And because they have LBS as in common, they're able to help each other out. So I think that is one of what I constantly hear, is that people are just like willing to go above and beyond and help their classmates, even if they're competing for the same like internship at McKinsey. You know, I always hear that they're like prepping each other, like coming out of the interview room, telling the other person what answer or what questions they were given. There's just this real sense of wanting to help others succeed and help the community.
That sense of modesty and selflessness, you know, giving back, helping others. I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful to be able to witness. Virginie, your 95 pioneers, they obviously came in with expectations for a program you were delivering for the first year. Already, what are the sort of the feedback that you're getting?
Yeah, and that is still fresh in my mind, because since it's this first class, and we really wanted to hear from them why they choose us and what they like during these first weeks in the program. And I remember one person who said, really, I stretched myself already in the fact that all these people around me have been so inspiring, and they push me to give the best of myself. And I felt, well, okay, this is already one good thing as we start this program. And then the I think what will also stay fresh in my mind is the fact that they were amazed already by this capacity to be challenged by and learning from the others, not just from the faculty, but also learning from their peers. And for us in an admission team, it's half the success is there if we can find inspiring people who are willing to share and contribute. This is the part of what makes the success of a program and a class and a cohort.
You all commented just what a positive, can-do group of students that you welcome, and of course in a year as unusual as this one, that sort of attitude. thank you to all three of you for your own positive attitude, because I think there's an extension of everything that you described, of this wonderful energy at the schools. I quite like the idea of all these international cooking classes that take place. Sophie, that's going to help my game in the kitchen, but if I stretch myself too far, I might not get up off the floor again. What a fantastic way to start this Centre Court Masters Festival with the three of you. So I know that the participants will have questions. For one of you that asked a question about the online MBA, there is a lot of archive material on Poets and Quants for an event called Backstage. So keep those online questions for the schools offering those programs, but do enjoy the chance to speak with Sophie, Virginie, Stephanie, the three of you. Thank you very much for such a wonderful panel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.